The living room was impeccably tidy, as if no one actually lived there. The beige couch was unmarked, the rug lay flat without a single crease, and the frames on the wall were aligned with surgical precision. But something felt off. Maybe it was the silence. Or maybe it was the absence of any vital signs in a place that should be pulsed with human presence. The ticking wall clock echoed like a hammer on glass, and the cold morning light filtered through closed blinds, casting perfectly straight shadows, too straight for a house that knew pain. Eleanor stood there, motionless in the center of the room, staring into nothing. Her arms hung heavy at her sides, as if burdened by all the conversations that never happened. Her phone vibrated on the table, notifications arriving like unwelcome visitors. Messages with emojis, automatic laughter, invitations that meant nothing. She no longer read them. They were hollow echoes of voices that only existed while the screen was lit. Outside, the city moved along, indifferent. Cars crossed avenues, people passed by with earbuds in, always in a rush, and no one truly saw anyone. It was the choreographed dance of a society used to noise but incapable of hearing. In the mirrored glass building next door, windows lit up and turned off like blinking eyes in the dark. But none of them saw Eleanor. The apartment was new, but carried the energy of something forgotten. The walls still smelled like fresh paint, but the air was thick, as if the memories of previous tenants had been painted over, not erased. Every corner held an absence, and sometimes, when the sunlight hit just right, it felt like shadows moved on their own through the kitchen. In the bedroom, the framed mirror reflected more than just Eleanor's body. It reflected the years she pretended to belong, to groups, to circles, to coffee shop chats where everyone smiled in sync and changed the subject when silence threatened to reveal too much. It reflected the times she laughed so as not to ruin the vibe, replied, "I'm fine," with a smile that hurt. It reflected the hugs that ended too quickly, the eyes that turned away when hers tried to go deeper. But now, looking at herself, she saw no face. Just an empty frame in the shape of someone who tried to fit in. The house had no photos, not by accident, but by design. Pictures fix time, and Eleanor had learned that time is a traitor. It gives the illusion of continuity, but shatters into pieces when you least expect it. In childhood, connection came through simple things. Dirt-covered hands, barefoot sprints through the street, sunset promises that felt eternal. Then came filters, stories, and likes that replaced eye contact. And with them, a loneliness dressed as presence. Everyone seemed to be there, but no one really was. It was like a party where everyone wore headphones, dancing, smiling, but each listening to a different song. One night, after yet another conversation ended with a, "I'll call you later," Eleanor walked to the bridge near her home. The river below was calm but dark. The water reflected the city lights like a promise of something deeper. And for the first time in a long while, she wondered if anyone would actually notice if she simply disappeared. The answer came in the sound of her own footstep on the bridge's metal. Echo, just echo. She didn't jump, but she didn't return whole either. After that night, she began noticing the details that slipped past the distracted. The man who always drank coffee alone at the corner cafe, the woman from the 8th floor who smiled at the empty elevator, the young man on a bike who passed the same street every day at the same time, eyes fixed on the horizon. They were all surrounded by people, but their souls screamed. It was as if they lived in transparent bubbles, visible but untouchable. On social media, Eleanor's feed still appeared alive. Photos from past trips, generic comments, red hearts floating beneath old selfies. But it was all archived, a carefully curated display of a life that no longer existed. Behind the screen, she hoped someone would see the emptiness behind the glow. That someone, just one, would say, "You look tired. What's really going on?" But that never happened. The house lights flickered as she walked down the hallway, as if the place itself were breathing. It was early morning, and the silence felt alive. In the kitchen, she opened the fridge just to feel the white light on her face. as if searching for some hidden truth among the boxes and bottles. There, alone, Eleanor understood what had been crushing her. It wasn't solitude. It was the illusion of company, being surrounded by connections that didn't hold. Words tossed to the wind, promises without weight, glances that passed right through. She remembered the last time she truly laughed. Not a social chuckle, but a laugh that starts deep in the chest and shakes the whole body. It had been so long ago it felt like it happened to someone else. She also remembered the last time she cried without hiding. She was a child, and someone had been there. The next morning she left the house. No destination, just decisive steps. She passed people at bus stops, clerks smiling mechanically in stores, groups taking selfies without even looking at each other. And she realized no one held each other's gaze anymore. It was as if the world had forgotten how to truly see, to truly look. In the Central Park, she sat on a worn wooden bench. An old man fed pigeons nearby, and a group of teens laughed loudly across the plaza. And there, between extremes of life, she felt something. A weight lifting. A bitter but freeing acceptance. She wasn't alone, just surrounded by others who were also empty. Connection, she realized, wouldn't come from fast typers, from good morning stickers, or from those who say, "I'm here for you," but never show up. It would come from something slower, quieter, maybe from the next sustained gaze, maybe from a small but honest gesture, maybe from simply continuing to exist, alive, waiting. When she got home, the mirror showed her again. But this time, there was something in her eyes. Not a sparkle, not hope, but steadiness. The look of someone who had passed through something invisible and returned with the marks. Marks that can't be posted, that don't fit in captions, only carried. That night, she wrote a single sentence in an old notebook, not intending to show anyone, but as if leaving a record, in case someone one day needed to find it. The worst kind of loneliness isn't being alone. It is realizing no one is truly with you, even when they're right beside you. And deep down she knew, somewhere out there, someone felt the same. Someone was searching through crowds for the same thing she longed for, and maybe, just maybe, one day, their paths would cross, not with fanfare, not with promises, but with a simple, "I see you," because sometimes that's all it takes. And you, can you see someone now?